We have our special guest. Erin? Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
Wow, 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 wow. So you're real. You're real.
Morning,
Good morning. Good morning.
everyone.
Good
Yeah.
morning. Erin. Thank you for
Okay.
thank you for coming on board. Thank you for taking the time to actually come and share your testimony and your message with us, because there's a lot of people out there that would love to hear more about what happened and how it happened and the journey. Yeah. So do you want to just talk to us a little bit, Vivian? Just introduce yourself a little bit.
Okay. I'm Vivian. Excuse me. I'm Vivian Okonta. Yeah. So, well, I'm from I'm from Delta States, and I've been in the UK since last year, and that's about me. So last week, I had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Tony, and in the course of our discussion, I kind of shared, because I traveled to Nigeria and I spent quite some time before I returned. I just returned a couple of weeks ago, and I kind of shared the reasons why I spent quite some time in Nigeria now. So, and that was how the story came about. So, so I would start with, well, sometime last year.
So Vivian, let me I like how Vivian just said she had the chance to meet with you. I think I was actually it was actually International Women's Day that day I came round. Yeah, is that's right, wasn't it? International Women's Day.
Yes.
I came round International Women's Day, and I remember Vivian was expecting her salad master.
Yes, I was expecting my salad master cookware
delivery, isn't it? And you were saying, you were wondering, okay, when is this cookware coming? Am I right? Yeah.
Yes.
And finally, you heard the doorbell ring. Yeah. And what did you think when you heard the doorbell ring?
When I heard the doorbell ring, I actually thought it was the delivery man who was delivering my parcel, because Mr. Tony had assured me that he was going to send it via courier and it was going to arrive the following day. So I was at home. I was working from home that day, and so immediately I heard the doorbell. I was like, "Oh, that must be the delivery man." And when I opened the door, to my greatest surprise, it was Mr. Tony with the parcel himself. So I was really surprised. It was quite a pleasant surprise, and I wasn't expecting to see him, and so he came in, and we had. We talked for a while. We had a conversation, and along the line, I shared, the story. One of the reasons why because he kept on asking. The thing is, I was meant to come back to the UK last year, but I kept on prolonging it. I kept on extending it, and it was waiting for my return so that I could deliver my cookware to me. And so as soon as I got back to the UK, and I told him, okay, I'm back to the UK. When is my cookware going to arrive? I kept on pestering him. So we had an interesting conversation, and I shared, part of reasons why I extended my stay. So I would start by, sometime early last year, before I came into the UK, my dad was booked for a minor surgery that was hernia. So this was actually his first surgery in his entire lifetime. He has never had a surgery. We've always told my dad that he's always been blessed with good health. Despite what he's been eating, he eats what he likes, but then, he never had health issues. My mom was the one who was having health issues from time to time. And so he was booked for this surgery, and it was necessary for him to have a thorough checkup done before going for the surgery. And most of his test results were okay. We're perfect. In fact, we're surprised. We're surprised at his age. He's there was the only result that was a bit, I was concerned I was concerned about was the PSA. I know I didn't share this bit. I didn't share this bit with Mr. Tony, but I'm just bringing it up. So the PSA was a bit off the charts, just slightly off the charts, and then I didn't know what PSA was all about. So I started, I'm usually curious about these things when I see something that is not within. So I just go on the web and read about it. And I told my brother, because I shared the test results with him. My brother he's a medical doctor. He's a gynecologist. So I shared it with him, and I told him, okay, this is the last result that was released, and it's showing that it's a bit off. Is it not something that, So we just felt, okay, that it's not bad for his age, all of the results are okay. So we shouldn't worry about it, So we didn't see it as a red flag at that time. And now he went for the surgery, and it was successful. Everything went well. And he was recovering over time. And while I was there before my return, I came across this audio that was shared on one of the WhatsApp group. I usually don't read messages. I have a lot of WhatsApp groups, and most times I lose track of the messages, but I just came across this audio that talked about, someone was sharing a story about, prostate, how, the dad had prostate cancer, and the remedy they applied. She talked about the use of soursop. Now, I've always known about soursop fruits. That soursop fruits has health benefits, that it has anti-carcinogenic properties. I've always known about that because, I came across it on the web and I read about it. But one thing about this story, the interesting aspect of the story was that, because I've heard people use soursop. One thing is using it, applying it. Another thing is, I think maybe, how, what to do in order to curb the root cause. So, because I've heard people take soursop while they were ill, they lost their loved ones, and they said they did everything possible. They even took soursop and everything, but yet it still didn't work. So the interesting aspect of this audio was that, okay, apart from taking the soursop, he needed to cut off a lot of things. He needed to change his diet completely. So I found this audio interesting, and I saved it. I just saved it. I just saved it because I don't know why I did that. I just saved it on my phone. And that was early last year. So I returned to the UK, and then sometime in July, a friend of mine in the US, we spoke. We hadn't talked in a long time, and she called me, and she confided in me and told me that, her dad has been having health challenges, and he's had a surgery before, and he had prostate cancer. He had a surgery before, and it came back, and now they're talking about booking him for chemotherapy. So, and she said, somebody suggested to them, soursop and all that. And there's this audio, there's this information that someone talked about it, and for some reason she can't find it. She's looking for how to get it. And I told her, okay, there is an audio that I actually have on my phone. I don't know if that is what you're talking about, but I'll share it with you. And I sent it to her. And she said, oh, yes, this is it. This is what she's been looking for, So that was in July. And then sometime in August, end of August, September, my eldest brother, who is a doctor, he came to Nigeria because he's based in Saudi. He came to Nigeria for a short vacation, and he took my dad to the hospital. I didn't even know, I didn't have a clue that he had health challenges. For some reason, he kept it to himself. My mom didn't even know about it. It was only my eldest brother. So they went to the hospital, he did a check, and that was when my brother called me. He called me, and I was in the UK then. He called me, and then he told me that, okay, that our dad, he's been having health issues, and he started experiencing symptoms. He was had frequent passing urine frequently, and after some time he started seeing blood in his urine. And at that point in time, I was shocked, I was surprised, and when the test result came out, the PSA result came out, he shared it with me, and the PSA was 33 at that time, which was unbelievable. And then I mentioned this, and I said, at the time this thing was off the charts, that was actually a red flag. How did we get here? So I was really at that point in time, I was so disturbed. I didn't, I was just thinking, of what to do at that point in time. And my brother was already getting ready to return back to his station, and he said, what we're going to do is, okay, he needs to, because my parents are in Delta State, that he needed to, move them to Lagos, where he would do proper test and diagnosis. Since this is the initial stage, he just did a PSA. The doctor has said he needs to do a biopsy, and we decided that, it's better for him to have this done in Lagos, where at least to some extent we have some level of confidence that, the Lagos will be better to handle this, So, and so I was I was greatly disturbed, and I just I started thinking, what can we do? I was away, I was not around, and we're just three. I've got two brothers. So my other brother is in Lagos, and so at that point in time, I just started thinking, I think at that time, I actually started learning some things on nutrition, and I actually had a one-on-one call with Mr. Tony, on the essence of eating right and all that. So, and so I then remembered this soursop thing, and I was just thinking, how do I go about this whole thing? And I remember that I shared this with my friend. So I gave my friend a call, and I spoke to her on the call, and I asked her, the audio I shared with you, did you try the remedy? How is your dad? How is he? Is he getting better? And she told me, yes, that is actually seeing some improvement, and that his PSA had dropped, Remember that he had a surgery before and it came back, and, his PSA was increasing again. So she said, his PSA had dropped, within 2 weeks. And I told her that I didn't even have a clue that my dad was equally experiencing the same thing. And my dad's PSA was way, way off, So and she encouraged me, and she said, oh no, you have to do something. You have to do something. He has to change. You have to make him change his diet. You have to, I was just thinking of how I was going to do it and how I was going to convince him, because it's really difficult to make them believe that, And when I mentioned it to my eldest brother, who is a doctor, he said, we are still in the early stage. We are still trying to diagnose, and let's not dive into this. It's too early, But then I said, I don't think we should wait until the diagnostic report is out. Whatever we can do now, let's do it, because we are already seeing we are already seeing the symptoms. The symptoms is an indication that it may be cancerous. And so while I was here, I had to make arrangements. I spoke with my dad, and I told him, okay, this you have to do. You need to cut off. You need to the things that you're used to eating. You need to start taking more of proteinous meals, fiber. You need to cut off carbohydrates. You need to. And I tried making an arrangement, with someone who helped me to get the soursop fruits, we had the soursop leaves because we actually had the tree in at our compound in Benin, because my parents were previously based in Benin before they moved to Delta State. Unfortunately, they couldn't move with the tree, and that tree was as a result of when I heard about soursop years back, and I decided to get the fruits, and I made sure it was planted, and it grew up, and it started bearing fruits. But people didn't really know the value of it. My dad wasn't even taking it. My parents, sometimes the fruits will, you get the fruits and then we actually give them out. So, so back to the story. So my mom took some leaves. She took a lot of the leaves while they were moving. She took the leaves, when they moved, relocated to Delta State, and got some soursop fruits. And he was now taking the soursop was made into smoothies, into smoothie, which he was taking with his meals. And he cut off carbohydrates completely. We needed to, he needed to start before even starting the diagnostics. So he actually started while they were in Benin, in Delta State, before they moved to Lagos. So when he got to Lagos, at that time, I decided to travel. Because he was actually struggling with it. He was like, he can't continue eating like this. He's losing energy. He's losing weight. My mom complained that he was losing weight. He was losing energy because he wasn't taking carbohydrates, the things that he liked to eat. So I had to encourage him as much as possible. I even went as far as, in fact, almost even my eldest brother and I actually we had an argument about this, and he said, "You know what, Vivian, I'm not sure we're doing the right thing. That why are we punishing our dad? Let's not, like, we have to be careful in trying to solve a problem. Let's not cause more problems." And I said, well, we're not causing problems as such. We're basically just changing his diet. What we are doing is not medicinal. We're just changing his diet. And, in the meantime, while he is still going to the hospital, he's undergoing the diagnosis. So, and I had to convince him. And in fact, I went as far as even getting my friend's dad to speak to him, because it was better for him to, he had his own experience. And I think it kind of helped in encouraging him. So, so he continued.
Vivian, yeah. I don't want to stop you in the flow, but why would you and your brother be conflicting? What profession is your brother in? So that people know.
So my brother, he's a medical doctor. He's a medical doctor. And when I told him about this remedy, he said, "You know what? There are a lot of things on social media. You don't know what is valid. He said, there are a lot of things on social media. This thing is not scientifically proven. He said, there's no need diving into this, trying to punish our dad, depriving him of what he wants to eat, and he's losing weight. He's losing, he's not gaining energy, and so well, we were always having this conflict, and he actually suggested that I should. And I told him, I said, okay, this is not just about social media. Now my friend's dad is on this, and they're seeing improvement. So my own friend has told me that this is actually working. And he suggested, okay, why not get your friend's dad to speak to our dad? And so I had to, call my friend up and, plead with her. And one thing about this is that a lot of people, people are usually not comfortable sharing their health issues. It's people, a lot of people are quiet about these things. But the thing is, if you don't share information, you never know you never know the lives that you'll be, there are people out there that actually need the same information, and there are people out there that are ignorant of these things. And so I had to make her understand the reason why I needed her dad to speak to. And I was opportune to speak to him on the phone, and he agreed to do that. So I made an arrangement, set up a call. He spoke with my dad. They were in Lagos then. And at the time they got to Lagos, he did another PSA test because he had to start all over again. So he first of all did a PSA test, and at that time it was 17.
Okay, from where?
From 33. From 33. Okay, so
half, almost. The PSA has gone down to half. Yeah?
Yes. That was about a half. Okay. So at that point, we were still not certain if it was as a result of his diet, or perhaps maybe the test he did in Delta State in Asaba was not accurate. We're not sure. So we're still okay from 33 to 17. So I persuaded my dad to still continue because he was really, really struggling. So at that point, at that time, I started contemplating on traveling to Nigeria. And thank God I was flexible at that time. So I was able to, and I had a return ticket. I didn't know when I was going to visit Nigeria. I just fixed the date, a random date. That was around October. So my plan was to move that date until when it was convenient. But I found it necessary for me to make use of that return ticket. And I decided it was a last-minute decision for me to travel to Nigeria because I felt that I needed to be with them to make, to see him through this. So it wasn't the same with me not around. Even though I tried as much as possible to do what I could from here, but it wasn't the same. And it was just my elder brother there, right? And so when we saw the result, it was 17. At that time, he was booked for the biopsy. He was scheduled for the biopsy. So he had the biopsy done. And so I traveled down to Nigeria. I didn't even tell them that I was coming. I got to the airport. I arrived at the airport in Lagos, and that was when I called my mom and I told her, okay, you know what, I'm around and I'm coming home. They didn't quite understand what I was talking about. They thought I was still in the UK. So I told them I'm around. I'm actually at the airport in Lagos and I was coming. So I got there. I arrived at home, and they were really surprised. They couldn't believe it that I came around. So at that time, we were expecting the biopsy results to be out. I think it came out the following day or 2 days later. And the result, pardon me. The result actually came out at the time I was traveling. The biopsy result was out, and it actually indicated that it was prostate cancer. So, and that was before I traveled. So when I arrived, I got there, and at that point they needed to take a decision. The doctor had given options of, 2 options. He said the major surgery was out of the way because of his age. My dad is in his early 80s. So he said because of his age, major surgery was out of the way. And he gave 2 options. One option was a minor surgery, which was removal of the testes. And then the other one was okay for him to, take injections. And that injection has to be continuous, almost like a lifetime thing. He has to be taking it every 3 months. So I wasn't really in line with, the minor surgery because I knew that we were already on, remedy. And I was very positive that, his diet, the changing his diet was actually helping, So he did a second PSA test after about 2 or 3 weeks, because it took some time for the biopsy result to be released. So at the time we needed to take the decision on whether he was going to go for the minor surgery or the injection. At that time, the the third PSA result he took was released, and his PSA was 10.
Right.
His PSA was 10 at that time.
Right.
So, and
So,
well, I didn't want to influence his decision on what he was going to do, either the surgery or or the injection. But my opinion, I just made my opinion known that I would rather he go for the injection. They shouldn't be in a hurry to go for the surgery, for the surgery, no matter how minor, how simple it is. So he decided eventually, because he saw results in what we're doing, and he was encouraged. That kind of boosted his morale. Though he was struggling with, the diet thing, but he was seeing results. We would actually have seen quicker results if he was taking it consistently. So the thing is, if he was taking because remember, he was eating mostly proteins. He would take soursop in the mornings. He would take the soursop leaves, the tea, we would boil the leaves, and he would take that in the morning as tea. There is soursop tea now, in fact, it exists. So he would take that in the mornings. And then in for his breakfast, he would take the soursop was like pap. When it's blended, we would remove the seeds and blend it into smoothie, and he would take it like pap. So for his breakfast, he would take akara and pap. And then in the afternoons, he would take beans with fish. We cut off meat. He would take beans with fish and with some veggies, with it. And he would take the soursop smoothie. And in the evenings, he would take moi moi, So when he started, he was taking the soursop 3 times daily. But after 2-3 days, because it's a detox, right? So he it was actually making him uncomfortable. He was stooling, so he decided to stop, and he was taking it once every day. So the result, the progress was actually slow. It would have been shorter if he was actually taking it, 3 times daily. So he continued that way. So when we started seeing results, I had to persuade him, you need to take this at least twice. At least twice, if we want to see quicker results. And so he got encouraged, and he started taking it twice. And in between, we would, at that time, I was actually dialing into the call on Saturdays to get information about, healthy eating. And if you remember, Sharon, at that time, I had inquired about, while I was in the UK, I was actually inquiring about, how I could place if it were possible to place an order for a large volume of food, like moi moi. Yeah, I remember I made that inquiry while I was in the UK. It was for that reason. And that was how I got to know about Best Food Clinic. And when I went there, I saw that, it was more of like a meal, like a piece meal. And I was requesting for volume, like volume, something that would take them. So yeah, exactly. To ease off the stress, the body, because it's really not easy having to prepare those things, having those things. So it was challenging for him, but he got encouraged when we started seeing results. So at the time, he made the decision. He decided to go for the injection. He decided to go for the injection. And my mom too was of the opinion that he shouldn't go for the surgery. He should go, he should go for the injection, And I know that my eldest brother, of course, they would feel that, but the surgery is a one-time thing. You do it once and for all, and you don't bother yourself about any other thing. But the injection is something that is going to be continuous. for even for a lifetime. But I told my dad, I said, I don't believe that you're going to take this injection for a long time because we are seeing results. I believe that over time, you're going to stop taking that injection. In fact, you may not even necessarily take the second injection, and my dad was positive about it, and he decided to go for the injection. And so he had his first injection, and while he was getting his medical treatment, we were also addressing the root cause. And one thing I picked from that audio that was shared was that, taking something to address a situation, treating it is one thing, but addressing the root cause is very important. You don't want to be you're trying to treat something, and at the same time, you're now eating something that is encouraging the growth of, So the interesting part of that, remember I said that, I heard about soursop, that people had used soursop in the past, and it didn't work. But one thing about this audio was that, I got to understand that, okay, cancer cells, they strive in sugar environments. So you want to cut off that scenario where those cells will be growing, anything that will promote the growth of those cells. So as you're killing it, you're trying to kill it, as you're trying to kill it, you're also trying to, curb the growth as much as possible, cut off, don't feed those cells. So in fact, I had to explain this I'm not a medical person, I'm not a nutritionist, but I just, based on information and things that I learned, I had to even tell my dad, I said, this is the reason why you can't be eating carbs. You can't be eating what you used to eat. You just need to avoid it for a while. Let's see results. So he had his first injection, and because normally, because I was around, they had extended their stay in Lagos, and my presence helped a lot because I had to, and he was taking a lot of water. He needed to be drinking a lot of water. It was very important. And I made sure my dad was someone, my mom used to complain that he doesn't drink a lot of water. And there's a limit to what my mom can do. But with me around, I made sure, I would put those bottles, I got alkaline water for him. I made sure I will put those bottles right in front of him and make sure he finishes those bottles of water a day. Sometimes he wouldn't even drink, he would take half of it. And before he goes upstairs to sleep, I would tell him, no, you can't go to sleep now. You have to drink this first. I would insist. Sometimes he had cheat days, like when I'm not around, he would probably go into the fridge and maybe grab something. Maybe if there was bread, I tried as much as possible to ensure that there was no bread in the house, So and also one thing in between, sometimes tomatoes, would blend tomatoes, the juice, the tomato smoothie, I would give to him to drink from time to time, So he was on this, and then I made sure, dairy products. I got mostly almond milk. He was taking almond milk most of the time. He cut off. I made sure he cut off anything that would, that would encourage. I didn't just, at some point, they felt I was overdoing things. My brothers felt I was, overdoing. They told me, oh, come, you're going too far with this thing. Don't you think you're overdoing it? So, but I was encouraged because we were seeing results, and my parents were also they were seeing results. Everyone was seeing results. So he continued along that line, and before they traveled back, 3 weeks later. I insisted he should take another test, and before they traveled back. And when the result was released, his PSA was down to 5.3. Right. That was from 10 to 5.3.
Mhm.
Now that was we're getting close to the normal range because the normal range is 0 to 4. So
Yes.
I traveled back to Delta State. I was
Mhm.
actually supposed to come back to the UK, but I just felt that was in November. So I just felt, okay, you know what? I can still do what I'm doing from Lagos.
Mhm.
And moreover, December is around the corner. So I might as well just stay on till
Yes. Yes.
after the festive period.
Mhm.
So I traveled in December. I
Mhm.
traveled home in December. He was still taking what he was taking every day,
Mhm.
and so before I traveled, I asked him to take another test.
Mhm.
And when the result was out, he called me. He was excited. In fact, he was like, "Oh," he said, "Oh, guess what? The result is 1.7."
Oh wow, fantastic.
1.7. So we're all so excited and we're like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. And even my eldest brother was like, oh, thank God, we're seeing results. And there was a comment he made. I told him, I said, you see that this is actually working. And he said, don't forget, he's also taking injections.
Okay.
And I said, well, I know that before he started the treatment, we already he was on this and we were seeing results
Yeah.
at least. So
Good.
you know, so when I traveled home and spent some time, and gradually we started introducing some other thing. Okay, he was taking oats. He would take oats. He would take veggies with his meals so that he would not just it's not just beans, proteins all the time, but he would, everything was with moderation.
Right.
He had some cheat days. And I would tell him, you know what, that you shouldn't really be taking this. And he said, I've been deprived of this for a long time. You guys should just let me be. At least one time it's not going to kill me. And I will permit him. During the festive period, of course, it was,
Yeah.
it was, we allowed him to enjoy what everyone was enjoying. So, yeah, so I spent some quality time with them and I returned. I returned to the UK in February and I asked him, I told him, you know what, sorry, I forgot to mention that he was booked for his second injection in January because it's meant to be 3 months. But he hadn't done a PSA test, so we didn't know what it was at that point. But I was convinced that it had actually dropped to 0 point something. So, but we hadn't done it, but he still took the injection. And I remember the doctor asking him, "Oh, why did you decide to go for the injection? Why don't you just go for the minor surgery? It's just simple. You get discharged the same day, and you don't have to worry about taking this injection all the time." There are people. He said this injection is something you have to keep taking for a long time, and in some cases, And when we told him that, oh, his last PSA result was 1.7, and he said, "Wow," and he said, "Wow, you're really responding fast to the treatment." He didn't know what
You're doing. Yeah.
what we're actually doing. I mean, so and to them, they no, because they don't know much about nutrition, so they'll tell you, "Oh, just keep living your life, and we treat this, and you go back to you can continue living your life." But the truth is that if that's the reason why some of these things come back. If you don't address the root cause, it's not going to help. So healthy eating, we cannot undermine the benefits of eating right, And that was why I had this interest in nutrition, what one should be eating. It's a lesson for me also. We shouldn't take anything for granted. As at the time, his PSA result was off the chart, a bit off the charts when he was booked for the hernia surgery. At that time, that was a red flag. Would have actually done something about it, but it was an oversight. So it's actually a lesson for me that one shouldn't take anything for granted. It is necessary to do a med check. And if anything is off the charts, that is the time for us to act, to act and start, knowing, cutting down certain things, living a healthy lifestyle. So the last result he took was, the last test he did was, that was about 3 weeks ago. And he told me that the PSA had dropped to 0.4.
Wow, fantastic. Amazing.
0.4. So, in fact, so that's practically, that's, it had cleared, and I told him, we're all excited. And I told him, I said, you know what? You can't go back to the way you used to eat before. You just have to continue. Yes, everything is going to be with moderation. Know that, okay, you haven't taken much of carbs, but it has to be with moderation. We have to be eating, you have to be eating right. We can't change we can't go back to the previous lifestyle. So this has actually, it's a learning point for everyone, and it's necessary to, from time to time, monitor our health conditions in order to know how to address it. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you for the story. Thank you for your journey. I mean, I think some key things that I would say, what are the key things you would say? Obviously, you've got the soursop leaf is one. I think you mentioned the fact that you eliminated some of the things that were the root of the problem. That's another. You stop feeding the disease, yeah, and you started feeding the body with something that can expel the things. So, what are the key things would you like? If someone says, "Okay, give me five points to follow," what would be the 5 points?
Okay. What I would say is that, first of all, I think it's necessary to, like I mentioned, it's necessary to monitor our health conditions, from time to time. My dad hadn't, like I said, we were always telling him that he was blessed with, good health, but we didn't know that, for the first time he had a surgery, hernia, and we didn't even know what was coming. So one thing led to the other. Because he was booked for his surgery, he did a med check, and because he felt his health was always okay, he hadn't done a med check for some time. So this is something that we cannot take for granted. From time to time, we need to be, we need to do a med check to be sure that our parameters are within normal range, and then. Secondly, if anything is off the chart, and we don't have to wait until something happens, we need awareness. The awareness is key. Awareness is key. Information is, knowledge is power. We need to, anything that that is off the chart, we need to investigate. We need to address it as early as possible. Because I've learned one thing. I think part of the reason. You have cases where people go to the hospital, and then the doctor will tell them, "Oh, you have 3 months to live, or you have 6 months to live." Imagine all of a sudden something just comes up, and you're now wondering how this whole thing come about. And that's probably because we missed at that point is that we probably were not checking or monitoring our health conditions, and maybe something came up and then it wasn't addressed at that stage. But something can be done. It's not too late. Something can be done. This is a scenario where, it already happened, and we're able to reverse it. We're able to reverse that situation, and it's a learning point for all of us. Eating healthy, we cannot undermine the benefits of healthy eating, because it saves you a lot of trouble. The money you spend in hospital, the hospital bills, all the things you had to do, MRI, biopsy, the checks he needed to do. So imagine if he needed to go for the treatment, chemotherapy, all that. It costs a lot of money. But you can actually save that by preventing it. Prevention is key. So healthy eating is very, very, very important. We're being proactive. We're being proactive and learning these things, eating right. It's very, very important. What else do I have to say now?
No, it's okay. So you said a lot. I mean, I just want to summarize some things that you said for those of the people that might have just come on. Is obviously finding out the PSA was 37. 37 at first.
33.
Am I right?
From 33.
33.
33 went down to 17.
So that's where I'm getting the 7. So 33. But when it goes down to 17, you've changed his diet. I take it at that point.
Yeah.
You've changed his diet. You've introduced soursop leaf at that point. Yeah. You've eliminated some of the bad stuff like the meats, and you've increased now the fiber. Yeah. And you've obviously had some fish also on that scenario for the omega-3. Yeah. Good. But then after that, obviously from 17 now, that's a big jump. Yeah. From 17, it went down to 10. Is it? Am I right? And that's also because you consistently carried on with the nutrition and the diet, and and you kept all the bad stuff out, even though there were cheat days. Like you said, it could have been faster. Then from 10, it went down to how much?
So 5.3,
and then 5.3. The rest is history. Yeah. And then we're here today. So I think that's fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing that. Sharon, do you want to say a few words on your side? Do you have any questions for Vivian? Let me see if maybe Sharon has got co-host issues again. Okay, so Sharon, do you want to say anything? I know I've put you on co-host now. Are you not there? You're still not there? Oh, that's strange. Okay,
I'm here now.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, I'm here now. Avon, what an amazing...
Vivian.
Sorry, Vivian. Vivian. Hi, Vivian.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. What an amazing experience you've shared with us. It's just a phenomenal set of journey that you are still going through that journey. But I guess for me, it would be at the point of you recognizing that all the health issues by diet and by changing what your father was eating, you visualize change. Whereas the medical staff, including your brother, were actually against it. And I can imagine that the pressure that must have put you under, because you were determined. And I think you're determined allowed you to do what you believed was right, despite what other people were saying. We always say that we always take advice from our medical professionals, and we don't really fight with them. But when you faced what you have faced, you actually showed such courage and bravery to do what you've done. And, the greatest thing is that there's a lovely result that you have achieved, to this stage. And I guess, can I just ask you, is your father now accustomed to taking the types of food? I know you said he has a cheat day, or he can have cheat days, but is he now accustomed to taking and eating that kind of food that you've taken him into?
Yes, he has actually adjusted. He has adjusted to the new way of eating now. Yeah, he has adjusted.
Right.
So, I mean, we, some things that, for instance, things that one was used to eating, like the poundo, the swallow. He wasn't taking that for a long time. And now he's not taking that frequently, and it's mostly oatmeal. He does now, not poundo. it's oatmeal now. Oatmeal. Even my mom, because I remember at that time before this whole thing happened, I was used to taking oatmeal. I had actually reduced the rate at which I was taking poundal, the yam, I was because I noticed that each time I had it, I felt too heavy. And sometimes I would have upper abdominal pain. So I started taking the oatmeal, and I would buy it and I'll bring it home. And sometimes, my dad didn't like it. They'll just take it once in a while. But now he has, and when for some reason he didn't like beans before. He wasn't eating, as I don't know, as people get older, there are certain things that I remember I used to tell him that the things that are healthy, you're avoiding them. Now he wasn't. At some point he stopped taking beans. He didn't like it. I don't know why, but he's in love with it now. he's taking it a lot. He's and he's taking more fiber, proteins, veggies. So everything is with moderation. Everything is with moderation now.
Right, fantastic. I think there's a question, Sean. Well, sorry. Did you see the question?
No, it's Vivian. Oh yes, it's just Pastor Peters thanking you for sharing your dad's journey to recovery. He wants to ask you, what form specifically do you eat the sour sop, it's SOP, as well as the leaf? So that's the fruit, I take it.
Yeah.
Which I believe the fruit is not in season at the moment.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah,
it's not actually. Yeah, it's not. This is not the season. Yes, I agree. This is actually not the season. So, because I was determined to source it from wherever, I actually got someone who was able to get it from me from the fruit market, because my parents were in when they were in Delta State, so I had someone in Anambra State who was able to, I discussed with him while I was here in the UK, and he was able to get it from the fruit market. Now, what we used to do is, he would get a lot of it, and initially we started with the unripe ones. They're actually more effective than the ripe ones. The unripe ones, it's strong at that time. It's not soft. So we started with the unripe ones, and we would take out the seeds, remove the seeds, and blend it. It's hard when you're blending it. So, you need to use a powerful blender to blend it. So the unripe one, he was struggling with it a lot. The unripe one is not as smooth as, the ripe ones. Because the ripe one is sweet. We're trying to avoid that, sugary.
Yeah.
So he started with that initially, and he wasn't really liking it. He was struggling with it. He was struggling with it, and but later on, what I did, we started going for the soft ones. We would get them, and we'll allow them to get soft a little bit, and we would blend it, and it's then like smoothie, like pulp. So he preferred it because it was sweet. So he would take it like pulp, with his meal, along with his meal. And the soursop leaves, he would take it first thing in the morning. We'll boil some leaves with usually what is recommended, like, okay, three leaves, 3 large leaves, boil it in a glass of water. But what we used to do is that we would boil a lot of it. So we have a large volume of it, and we would preserve it. So anytime he wants to take it, we would heat it up, and then he would drink it first thing in the morning. because he loved taking tea. My dad loved drinking tea. First thing in the morning, he would take cups of tea, like Lipton tea, and that was something that he cut off as well. The black Lipton tea. I stopped him from taking it. No more. Yeah, anything that contained the caffeine. No, he stopped taking that. So that was what he was drinking in the morning, taking in the morning as his tea, before he would take his breakfast with a soursop smoothie. In the afternoon, he would take, his, he would take beans along with fish, and sometimes we'll add veggies to eat, and then he would take it with the soursop smoothie as well. And in the evenings, he would take moi moi. So remember that he was strictly on proteins because we needed to see results at that time. Now that he's back to normal, we're introducing other things, like, okay, started taking oats, other foods, but everything now is with moderation. Everything now is with moderation. He can't go back to taking, those, carbs, poundo, no more. Oatmeal. It's now oatmeal. It's now the rice. If he takes rice, the healthy type of rice, and carrots, tomatoes, the healthy stuff, basically veggies. Yeah.
And like you said, avoid all these things. Yeah, extra things. Okay, so to avoid.
And milk. As for the milk, no more dairy. No more dairy products. No, plant-based.
Yeah. Apparently,
it can be expensive. It's expensive. It's expensive. Well, to people, it's expensive, but in the long run, it pays off because, and as well, of course, actually at that time, that was what even made me request for, the cookware as well. Actually, he requested for it, placed an order for them to be making use of. I remember when they came to Lagos. At the time I got my set of cookware. For some reason, I still had the previous ones, like the small pots, like non-sticky pots. I still had them in the cupboard, and while I was in the UK, and I made sure I asked my mom, okay, what are you using to cook? what are you using to cook? So my mom said, when she mentioned that she was used to taking the small non-sticky pots to make food, and so I told her, no, please, no more. Make sure you use the new the new cookware that is there. Please stop using. Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
So you use Salad Master to help do all your food for them. Because I noticed you bought Salad Master in Nigeria again, and then you bought Salad Master in the UK.
Yeah. Okay. But most part of it was what he was eating. The healthy eating. Good. It was a good thing we tackled it at that stage. We didn't wait until the diagnostic result was out before we now started addressing, because you remember that my brother had kicked against it. He said, don't you think this is too early to start doing this? We haven't even arrived at the results or what it is. And I told him, we don't have to wait till then. Let's do what we can, so that by the time he's receiving treatment, it doesn't stop him from doing what he needs to do in the hospital. But let us do what we can, changing his diet, changing what he's eating, cutting off, So above all, I thank God for the wisdom, divine wisdom, because one thing is getting this information. Another thing is acting on it. You may have the options thrown to you, but at the end of the day, you may be making the wrong decisions if if you're not guided. I mean, I was praying about it as well as doing what I needed to do.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Vivian. That was very, very, very. It's got to be one of the shows of the season. Listening to you going through your journey, and it's natural. So you're just going through the journey, just going through it. The key thing, and I think you've heard it on my shows before, anyway. And when we did a 1-to-1 too, you mentioned that. But we have a choice. We can keep on feeding the disease, and the disease can keep growing. And if you allow the disease to grow and grow and grow, eventually it takes over the body. And if it takes over the body, guess what? The disease will have a party inside your body. And when it has a party inside your body, who does it invite? It invites its friends. And the friends are other diseases that you don't want. So the good news in terms of Vivian's approach, I love the approach. The approach is get rid of the things causing the problem and increase the things that could improve the condition, and hopefully get rid of the whole thing. So we got rid of the meat, the dairy, and we brought in the foods that can help the system and the fiber. And then also we now had the soursop leaf. So, and one thing that Vivian also said to me that was very, very interesting when I met Vivian, she said, some people use soursop leaf and they say it doesn't work. Now, the difference between those that allow soursop leaf works for them and their cancer, and the ones that it doesn't, is because you have to sacrifice some things also. It's not a pill. You have to get rid of the things causing the problems. Otherwise, all you're doing is neutralizing what soursop leaf is doing. If you're still eating meat and you say, I'm eating soursop because it's anti-cancer. Yeah, I hear that so many times, that somebody's eating this because it's anti this, but they're eating something that's causing it. And therefore they neutralize the medicine that could cure them. Yeah, so that's the key thing. So I think I'll give you the last few words, Vivian, on what I've just said, because I think we're going to close the show as soon as you finish, because we took over the time, but it was worthwhile. Yeah, over to you, Vivian.
Yeah. Okay.
Just last few words. Just last few words you want to say.
Okay, last few words. Okay. Well. So I just want to encourage everyone that it's not the end of the world if first thing is one needs to be proactive. Like I mentioned, checking from time to time, checking our health conditions. And if anything happens, it's not the end of the world, really. There are things that can be done. I've always had this belief that there is no problem that does not have a solution. The solution is in our hands. Everything was created to address whatever situation. So I've always had this, belief and been positive about, addressing situations. If it happens, there is a solution to every problem, and it's not too late. It's not too late to start. And we just do what we can based on the knowledge. Knowledge is power. Never undermine the power of knowledge. Awareness is key. Never undermine the benefits of healthy eating, because it goes a long way. It actually goes a long way and it helps you stay away from the hospital. Because I remember during COVID, people were doing a lot of things, taking a lot of natural remedies. They were staying away from the hospitals because they didn't want to. They were scared of getting infected. So we need to be proactive, and it is also good to a lot of people don't like to share their experiences, stories, and all that, but you may be touching, you may be saving a life out there. So I always believe in, sharing information, and it'll go a long way to helping people, their situations.
I'd like to say thank you also for sharing, because in Nigeria and in Africa, we don't tend to share these things, and some people unfortunately die because we don't share. But by sharing, we're caring, which could save a life. Sharon, do you want to say last few words before we wrap up? No?
Yes, thank you for a wonderful session and sharing your very personal journey with us. I'm sure that many people will have taken lots of golden nuggets away from your experience and the knowledge. So thank you, Vivian. Really appreciate it.
Can we also all extend our thank you on our chat? And I'm going to unmute everybody in a second. Before I mute everybody, guys, you'll be looking. Unfortunately, Nick won't be able to come. Fine.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I said before, I'm going to unmute everyone so that they can extend their thank you to you, and also put it in the chat. Say thank you, Vivian. And then also, what I'm going to say also is that if you're looking to get the leaf, let us know. We do have a source for the leaf, and we can help you with that also. If you're looking at getting food, that's smoothies. We have smoothie remedies also. We also have tea remedies. We also have food. So we've literally done all the research on that. So we can't share that with you now, but Best Food Clinic and the Healthy Store can help you with that. And on that note, I'd like to say thank you very much, Vivian, and I'm going to unmute everybody so that they can extend their thank you, and I'm going to thank everybody else for coming on the show. So thank you, Vivian. Thank you very much.